In 1983, a high school reading list staple was turned into a film that was somehow both brutally raw and visually poetic. The film in question was The Outsiders, and we are going to look at how the cast looked like then and now. At just 16 years old, C.Thomas Howell stepped into the shoes of Ponyboy Curtis, marking a breakout moment in his young acting career. Howell was already gaining attention in the year prior to the film's release due to his role in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but following The Outsiders, Howell's career surged to the cult classic stratosphere with roles in Red Dawn and the Hitcher series. While some of his choices, such as the controversial Soul Man, affected his trajectory as a leading man, he remained a consistent presence in film and television, appearing in productions ranging from meditative dramas like Gettysburg to blockbuster draws like The Amazing Spider-Man. Today, he is 58 years old, and he continues to work steadily in the entertainment industry, both at the front and back of the camera, maintaining a versatile and enduring career. At 30 years old, the GOAT Patrick Swayze stepped into the role of Ponyboy's big brother/surrogate parent, Dari. Swayze was already building a steady career in the industry long before joining the Outsiders ensemble, but it was his commanding presence in this film that got the right people to start noticing him. A multi-talented performer with skills in the dancing, action, and drama fields, Swayze would go on to become a Hollywood icon, starring in what would go on to be classic films such as Dirty Dancing, Ghost, Donnie Darko, and of course,
Roadhouse.
By the time the 2000s were rolling in, Swayze had already carved out a unique legacy as one of the most magnetic stars of his generation. In his later years, he faced a devastating battle with pancreatic cancer that would eventually rob us of the star in 2009. He was 57 years old when he passed. At just 19 years old, Matt Dillon exploded onto the screen as the rebel greaser Dallas Dally Winston. His embodiment of an outsider on the darkest edge cemented his status as one of Hollywood's most intense young talents and kicked off a career that would go on to range from gritty indie films to big Hollywood productions. Off-screen, his life mirrored the tough guy image to some extent, with him having his fair share of ups and downs, but through it all, he's remained a respected actor known for his depth, versatility, and intensity. Today, Matt Dillon is 61 years old and still going strong. Ralph Macchio was just 22 years old when he stepped into the role of Johnny, the vulnerable greaser who defined much of the film's emotional core. Macchio's performance was widely praised for its sensitivity and authenticity, but surprisingly, this wasn't the film to launch him to stardom. That honor would go on to The Karate Kid, where he played the iconic Daniel LaRusso, a role that defined his career and left a lasting impact on pop culture. Throughout the decades, Macchio has continued to act balancing roles in film, television, and theater. Nowadays, he's best known for reprising Daniel LaRusso in the hit series Cobra Kai, which has brought renewed appreciation for his career and acting chops. Outside of acting, Ralph is known for his passion for music, often playing guitar and performing. Today, Ralph is 63 years old and remains active in the entertainment scene. Tom Cruise was just 20 years old when he strutted onto the big screen as Steve Randall. At the time of the film's release, Cruise left a mark on general audiences, but no one could have guessed that the dirty, geeked-out greaser would have the world in his hands a few months later with the release of Risky Business. From this modest starting point, Cruise rocketed into superstardom, becoming the definition of a Hollywood leading man. Known for his relentless work ethic, jaw-clenching intensity, and death-edging stunts, Cruise has dominated decades of blockbuster cinema, from Top Gun to Jerry Maguire to Mission Impossible. Off-screen, Cruise's life has been just as headline-worthy, making tabloids for his high-profile relationships, devotion to the cult-like religion, and a reputation for being one of the most dedicated actors in the business. Today, Tom Cruise is 62 years old and still running at full throttle. Rob Lowe was 19 years old when he took on the role of Soda Pop Curtis, brother to Ponyboy. At the time of the film's release, Lowe was already making a name for himself as one of the young actors defining 80s Hollywood. He soon became one of the Brat Pack's shining stars, with roles coming at him from every angle, but every high comes with its lows. From youthful partying to a steady comeback marked by acclaimed roles on TV shows like The West Wing and Parks and Recreation, Lowe at 60 years old has carved out a career defined by resilience, wit, and undeniable charm. Emilio Estevez was just 21 years old when he became Two-Bit Matthews. A key member of Hollywood's Brat Pack, Emilio would carve out a solid career as an actor and director, known for films like The Breakfast Club and Young Guns. Today, Emilio Estevez is 61 years old and remains active in the industry, balancing acting, directing, and producing. You might have missed him, or just forgotten him given the film's 42-year-old birth tag, but at 33 years old, Tom Waits would be spotted as the greaser Buck Merrill. Waits was already a cult legend regarded for his music that spun tales of drifters, losers, and lovers with one foot in the gutter and the other in a dream. After The Outsiders, Waits kept doing what only Tom Waits could do, making strange, brilliant music, acting in oddball films such as Down by Law, The Fisher King, Seven Psychopaths, and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Today, Waits is 75 years old, still living in that weird poetic space as a part bluesman, prophet, and madman in a thrift store suit. Glenn Withrow was 29 years old when he played Tim Shepard, the leader of a rival greaser gang, and a character whose limited screen time didn't prevent him from absolutely radiating hard-edged energy whenever he showed up. Though Glenn Withrow didn't pursue the level of fame that some of his castmates did, he still had a solid and multifaceted career. After The Outsiders, he worked on several Coppola projects, i.e. Rumblefish and Peggy Sue Got Married, and later transitioned into writing, producing, and directing, alongside his wife, Hallie Todd. Together, they run a family-oriented production company and continue to work in the indie film scene. Today, Withrow is 71 years old and remains a creative force behind the camera. Diane Lane was just 18 years old when she portrayed Cherry Valance. One of several Coppola-directed projects featuring the actress, the film right from the jump proved that she was built for longevity. Over the decades, Lane has earned a reputation as one of the most versatile and respected actresses in the business, gaining critical acclaim and bank for her various roles in dramas and blockbuster franchises. Off-screen, Lane has avoided the chaos of celebrity headlines and instead built a legacy rooted in craft and dignity. Today, Diane Lane is 60 years old and still turning in performances that are just as compelling as her teenage debut. Michelle Meyrink was 20 years old when she took on the role of Marcia, Cherry's best friend and fellow sock. This film was one of many cult favorites where Marcia showed off her quirky charm, with others being real genius and Revenge of the Nerds. Michelle would walk away from Hollywood at the height of her fame, prioritizing a life of mindfulness and creativity over the limelight. She moved to Canada, embraced Zen Buddhism, and eventually opened an acting school in Vancouver. Today, Michelle Meyrink is 62 years old, still mostly out of the public eye, but still remembered fondly by fans of 80s cinema for her clever, grounded energy in her films. Leif Garrett was 21 years old when he played Bob Sheldon. A drunken brute that made your skin crawl, Garrett disappeared into the role to a level you couldn't recognize him as the teen idol that was probably plastered all over your mom's wall while growing up. After The Outsiders, fame hit Leif fast and hard, with substance abuse struggles spiraling his public image. But as of today, the 63-year-old has flipped the script and turned his life around, with him even opening up about his battles with addiction. Darren Dalton at 18 years old would debut on the big screen as Randy Atterson, Bob's best friend, and the only sock who came close to a real transformation. Dalton's performance was subtle but essential, and he carried that thoughtful presence into the rest of his career. After The Outsiders, he took on a standout role in Red Dawn and worked steadily through the 80s and 90s in both film and television. Eventually, he shifted into writing and producing, staying creative behind the camera. Today, Darren Dalton is 60 years old and still involved in the industry as a quiet force.